Welcome, classic rock fans, to a short video that features the next part of my Desmond Child interview. There's no doubt that Meat Loaf is a larger-than-life character, quite literally in fact. And there's no doubt in my mind that he seriously loved and appreciated his audience. However, in the recently published biography by the brilliant songwriter Desmond Child, he points to some pretty serious and problematic behaviour when he worked with Meat Loaf on Bat Out of Hell 3. He talks about Meat Loaf being incredibly difficult, problematic, abusive, and even homophobic. Let's take a look, shall we? Is what prompted Meat Loaf to vandalise your car?
He was, tired, wasn't thinking, and he pulled, it was like it's the two spots were side by side. He had the first spot,
Yeah.
said Mr. Loaf, and mine said Mr. Child. And my car was a very beautiful Arnage T Bentley, like the kind the Queen Mother was driving around in,
Sure.
right? Black, looked like a limo, like a limo, right?
Yeah.
And he had a more modest Mercedes. So, when he like pulled out, he went like this and just scraped the whole side of the car, you know, but he didn't admit it.
Right.
That was the thing. And so, the next day I said, "Hey, do you know anything about how my car got scratched?" He goes, "No, don't know nothing." And so he comes back the next, and I'm like, come on, he did it.
Mm.
Right. So the next day I said, I got good news. They have the video now of who they tracked down the video from the surveillance cameras of who scratched my car. And his eyes were like darting side by side. And he's got at the mic. This is what he's getting ready to sing.
Uh,
And I gave him that good news, and he went, I said, "What? Excuse me, could you say that a little bit louder?" I crashed your fucking car, you know? And so then, of course, with a car like that, it's, you have to paint the entire car. So it was like a $5,000 paint job,
mm.
because there's no way of just fixing the door because it was like the whole thing is like one thing, so that's the story of the car.
Well,
But
why was Meat Loaf so pissed with you generally?
because I wasn't Jim Steinman,
Okay.
because he should have made
He
that.
hated that album though, didn't Bad Out of Hell 3, he didn't he hated that album, didn't he?
Well, he approved every song. He sang every song.
Right.
He was with us for 9 months. He said he loved it. But this is what happened. He needed to get an album out there so he could tour, because he was in the middle of a lawsuit with Jim Steinman over the name Bat Out of Hell, because Jim had written a Broadway show, wanted to call it Bat Out of Hell,
Right.
and Meat Loaf had nothing to do with it. But
Right.
Meat was contention was, this is my brand name. You can't just go out there and make a musical with my brand name. And Jim Steinman said, well, you forget the fact that I actually wrote those words. And it's, you didn't write one note of the music that you sang. Bad Out of Hell is mine. So they were in a tremendous lawsuit for a couple of years.
Sure.
In the meantime, he had to make a record. And the idea was, well, I'll show him. I'll do Bat Out of Hell 3 without him. And so, but it was more complicated than that. They made me record 7 Jim Steinman songs that had been on other people's records, like Celine Dion's "It's All Coming Back to Me Now," a duet with Marion Raven, and this and that, and from his Broadway show, and from this vampire Broadway show that he had done, from his own solo record, Jim Steinman's solo record. And they gathered these 7 songs, and none of them less than 6 minutes long. And they went through all these modulations and keys. It was very, very difficult thing. And then I wrote with my collaborators amazing songs for him, "Blind as a Bat," and "If God Could Talk." I mean, like, so many great songs. And the album took 9 months to make.
Yeah.
and cost over $2 million
Wow.
because he kept, he first wanted his stage band to be the band, but it wasn't great. So I had to re-record every instrument,
Mhm.
sometimes multiple times, and then demon choirs and pipe organs and 60-piece orchestras and all of these things that he was demanding. And in the end, I mean, also the way we were recording at a very expensive studio, he wasn't happy with an engineer that also did Pro Tools. He didn't trust Pro Tools. So he
Sure.
wanted one guy just do sound, $1,000 a day, and another guy just do Pro Tools, $750 a day. Then the studio itself was, $1,200 a day. So then he, you know, was having a hard time singing. And I kept telling him, you need to, practice. I brought the voice teacher to the stars, Eric Vitro, who I'd gone to college with. And Eric would come every afternoon and just sit there. Finally, midway through the album, he said, okay, uh, show me what you can do. Suddenly, he started taking voice lessons and really depending on him. And his voice came to life. So we had to re-record all the vocals again from the beginning because now he had a different, fantastic, he was back.
Yeah, yeah.
And listen to the record, it's very well sung, you know. And so, all of these complications, but in the meantime, deep down, he felt guilty because once he resolved things with with Jim and he started seeing that Jim was health was failing, he
Mhm.
felt incredibly guilty. So it wasn't until the last few years, maybe even after Jim died, that he took Bat Out of Hell off of Spotify. It was available, Bat Out of Hell 3 off of Spotify, and started saying things like, Bat Out of Hell 3 doesn't exist. But he liked it fine for like 10 years in between. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? It's like it was all this like terrible, it was a love affair gone wrong, between these two people, their souls. And they made a record, which I think is his final record, that were the songs that Jim was saving for Bat Out of Hell 3.
Really.
And in fact, on the cover, it's the back of the two of them kind of walking into like hell's brimstone and fire and whatever end of time kind of thing. And I think it's called Larger Than Both of Us or something. I forget the name of it.
Uh-huh.
And so I was used. They didn't put my name on the back of the cover. They put it somewhere little on the inside thing. And then on the back of the inside CD was in very large letters, a love letter to Jim Steinman, dedicated to Jim Steinman. So him and his manager were trying to make it seem as though Jim had produced the record. Never would mention me.
Mhm.
So, it was like very, very painful. He didn't care about me.
Mhm.
So I threw a wrap party for him and all this, and he left early and just didn't even speak to Jennifer Hudson, who was getting ready to win an Oscar for
Sure.
Dreamgirls, and who I got on the record, to sing on the record,
Mhm.
and just didn't appreciate me at all. And maybe he was a bit homophobic too, because
Sure.
he's very right wing.
Right.
So sometimes he would come up from behind me and grab my hair and pull my head back and stick his tongue down my throat, like because he was trying to like make up for being a bad boy and thinking that because I'm gay, I would like that. Or like, sometimes straight men think that any gay guy thinks they're attractive and they're after them. Like, no, we're a bit pickier than that, you know. And it's crazy behavior.
So there you are, there you have it. That's the Desmond Child's take on working with Meat Loaf being somewhat problematic. And he goes into even greater detail in his wonderful autobiography, which is available to buy now. I must admit, it's kind of piqued my interest regarding Bat Out of Hell 3. Never heard the album, but I certainly want to hear it now. Other than that, I'll leave you with my closing salvo, which is hope you're well, staying safe, and of course that you Keep listening.